April 28, 2001, Kansas City, Missouri. Two random passersby decided to take a shortcut through a wooded area near 59th Street. In the thick bushes, they noticed something that looked like a discarded doll. But as they got closer, they froze in horror. It was a child, a girl about 3 to 4 years old. She was wearing nothing but white socks, and she had no head. This was the beginning of one of the most shocking and gruesome cases in American criminal history. For 4 years, the police would search for the answer to two questions. Who was this child? And why had absolutely no one in such a huge country reported her missing? Today, we will examine the case of Erica Green. The police were at a dead end. 2 days later, about 150 meters from the body, in a regular plastic bag, they found the head. Forensic experts determined that the girl had been killed just a few hours before she was found. She was well cared for and did not appear malnourished, but her identity simply did not exist in any database. A police surgeon who had seen hundreds of deaths in his career could not hold back tears at a press conference. He said, "We can't just call her object number 41. She is a child. She is precious." Thus appeared the name by which the world would come to know her, Precious Doe. Kansas City literally adopted her. The residents organized a memorial, bringing thousands of toys, but the killer remained in the shadows. For 4 years in the darkness, detectives examined thousands of missing children cases, and the police checked over 1,000 false leads across the country. None of them fit. If a child disappears, parents look for them. If parents kill a child, neighbors, teachers, or doctors notice. But here, there was silence. Detective Alonzo Washington became the voice of Erica. He printed thousands of leaflets, organized marches, and kept the search alive. He believed that someone somewhere knew her face. Dozens of factual reconstructions of the girl were made. But the years went by. 2002, 2003, 2004. The press began to forget the case. May 2005, Kansas City Police Department, a call came in from a woman named Carla Edwards. Her voice was trembling as she said, "I think your precious daughter is my granddaughter, niece Erica." Carla examined that her niece, Michelle Johnson, had moved from Oklahoma to Kansas City in 2001 with her daughter and her partner Harold. Since then, no one had seen the girl. When relatives asked about Erica, Michelle would say, "She's with friends," or "Child Services took her." A DNA test confirmed it. Precious Doe was Erica Michelle Green. She had been 3 years old. The truth was far worse than anyone had imagined. To understand why this case shocked America, we need to go back to the night of April 28, 2001. A small apartment in Kansas City inside 3-year-old Erica, her mother Michelle, and stepfather Harold Johnson. Harold was furious. Later, investigators would establish that he was under the influence of powerful psychotropic substances. The cause of his anger, a normal child's tantrum. Erica didn't want to sleep. She cried. What happened next, Harold would later describe calmly in his testimony. He began terrifyingly beating the 3-year-old girl. as a form of discipline, he said. But it was not a controlled process. It was an uncontrollable outburst of violence. He threw her against the floor and kicked her. At that moment, Michelle, her biological mother, was nearby. Was in the next room with her two younger children. She heard the screams of her daughter. She heard dull thuds. But she didn't enter the room. She didn't call the police. She was afraid that the noise would attract cops and they would find their drugs. When Harold finished, Erica was still alive. She lay on the floor for several hours, slowly dying from internal injuries. Michelle later admitted that she had seen her daughter suffer, but just hoped it would be okay. When the girl's body went limp, the couple realized they had a corpse in their apartment. Here began the darkest part. To hide the child's identity, Carol decided to decapitate her. He used ordinary garden shears, thinking that without a head it would be impossible to identify the bastard, as he called her. They wrapped the body in regular trash bags and took it to a wooded area, which they thought was remote. They returned home and continued to live as if Erica had never existed. The next day they went to church. The most terrifying question detectives asked after the couple's arrest. Didn't anyone hear anything? In the apartment building on 59th Street, where the Johnsons lived, the apartments were right next to each other. When police began interviewing neighbors, they uncovered an abyss of indifference. Neighbors along the stairwell later admitted under questioning that they had heard everything, the screams and thuds. One downstairs neighbor. She recounted that on the night of April 28th she heard dull, heavy thuds against the floor, strong enough that her chandelier shook. She also heard a piercing child's scream, which suddenly stopped. Why didn't she call the police? He answered shocked investigators. In this building, someone is always yelling or fighting. We have gotten used to minding our own business. I didn't want any trouble with Harold. He looked dangerous. Another neighbor recalled seeing Michelle and Harold the morning after the murder. They were leaving the apartment with the large black trash bags. Harold appeared completely calm and even greeted the neighbor. The neighbor noticed that the bags were strangely shaped and very heavy, but assumed the couple was empty doing a big cleaning or moving. A woman who lived one floor above said that a few days before the tragedy she had seen Erica in the hallway. The little girl looked frightened and pressed against the wall when Harold walked past. The neighbor wanted to ask if she was okay, but Harold gave her a second look that she quickly went back into her apartment and locked the door. The testimonies became key evidence for the prosecution, proving that the murder was not an accidental incident. It was a culmination of prolonged violence that occurred in front of the entire household. People heard a child being killed and simply turned up the volume on their TVs. Erica's grandmother and Aunt Carla in Oklahoma began asking Michelle questions about when she returned without Erica. Michelle gave the children various explanations. Erica is living with her father. Child Services took Erica. Erica is in a special school. Two younger children who saw Harold that night sometimes mentioned in conversations. Erica was in a lot of pain. Harold punished Erica severely. These fragments of phrases fit together like a puzzle for Carla. One day, when news aired on TV with a reconstruction of Erica's face, Michelle's son exclaimed, "Mom, that's Erica!" But Michelle forbade him from speaking about it. After that, Carla Edwards called the police. Harold Johnson, a shadow with a criminal past. At the time of the murder, he was 25 years old, but his record looked like that of a career criminal. Past. He grew up in dysfunctional environment in Oklahoma. By age 20, he already had conviction for robbery, possession of weapons, and crucially, cruelty to animals. Psychologists often note that this is a first step toward violence against humans. Neighbors describe him as a silent threat. He didn't shout in the street, but his gaze made people look away. He was a pathological manipulator. Addiction. Harold was heavily addicted to PCP, phencyclidine. This drug angel dust wild aggression, hallucination, and gave the user the illusion of incredible physical strength. On the night of the murder, Harold was under the heavy influence of this substance. To him, 3-year-old Erica was not a child at the moment, but provocation. Michelle's personality inspires even more hatred than Harold's. Why? Because from a mother, society expects protection, not complicity. At the time of the tragedy, she was around 30 years old. She had 8 children from different men, and Erica was the youngest, considered a burden. Due to her lifestyle and drug problems, the children had been distributed among relatives in Oklahoma. Michelle was a classic victim of abusive relationships, but complicated by her drug addiction. She was so dependent on Harold emotionally, financially, and chemically that they became the center of her world. During interrogations, it became horrifyingly clear. Michelle blamed Erica for provoking Harold. She didn't attempt to remove the child or protect her. She watched as her partner destroyed her daughter's life, hoping that he would calm down soon and we could get high again. When the police finally put handcuffs on this couple in 2005, the world expected remorse. Harold Johnson looked at the camera with absolute indifference. There was not a trace of remorse in his eyes for what he had done to the child. Michelle Johnson behaved as a victim of circumstances. She cried, but not for her daughter, rather for herself, about how her life was ruined and that Harold had made her stay silent. The investigation quickly revealed that after Erica's murder, Michelle continued to collect social benefits intended for the child. She spent the money on herself for 4 years. Michelle agreed to cooperate with the investigation, giving testimony against her husband. In the courtroom, there was dead silence as she described the last minutes of her daughter's life. The prosecutor asked one question: "Did you love her?" She replied, "Yes," but bitter laughter echoed from the room. Harold Johnson found guilty of first-degree murder. The judge, reading the sentence, barely restrained a quiver in his voice. He received life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Harold remains in Missouri State Prison. Michelle Johnson, for complicity and criminal negligence, received 25 years in prison. Many considered this too lenient, given that she betrayed her own child. In 2005, Erica Green was buried for the second time, and her story remains a tragic reminder of cruelty, indifference, and adult inaction. 4 years later, Precious Doe finally found peace. The citizens of Kansas City who had cared for her nameless grave all those years raised funds for a new headstone. Her story became a lesson for the entire U.S. child protection system. It reminded us that hell can hide behind closed doors and that the cost of our indifference is the life of a child who simply wanted to sleep safely.